Yeah, and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. Cryptic Studios just had a stream where they talked about the new updated refinement system with all of these enchantments, and they answered questions from within the chat, and also questions that were left on the forums. So I'd like to go through that and basically let you guys know of which questions were asked, at least the more relevant ones, and also give the response that they gave in return. Now, firstly, there'll be a link in the description. We can head to the forums where you'll get this post. Class streams. Basically, they're asking us to make a vote on, do we want class streams to be one stream per class, or bundled randomly, or other, and please comment. My opinion, these streams should be all one per class. You should have a stream dedicated to said class, and so on. That'll be 9 different streams. Yes, that'll take a while, but I think it's much better to have a more thorough approach than bundling them all together, and then we'll end up, let's say, focusing on one class more than others, and things will get left out and miscommunicated since they'll be talking about this class then this one. So now let's go into what did they go over more so in the stream. Now, the first thing they talked about is why these changes. Well, to put it simply, they just wanted to basically introduce more ranks of enchantments. So rather than getting your rank 16, 17 and throwing it on top of the mess of the enchantment upgrade system that they currently had, where basically it was absolutely of no value to upgrade even from rank 14 to 15, it was better to just buy 15 straight up from the Tradebar store. And therefore, the whole upgrade system was a mess, so they reworked it the way they did, and yes, as a result, they also simplified things down. Then it was asked, are the developers aware that a lot of the combat enchantments, which we only have 6 of them, are very bugged? There are a lot of errors going on. We're getting zeros while dodging when dealing damage, and no defense for the fortified nature. And apparently the developers actually weren't aware of this, which is a joke. Well, at least the lead designer wasn't aware. The community manager said she read something on it or other. Next question was, why no rank 9 trade-in? Well, because to make a trade-in viable enough for rank 9s, you'd have to be trading in like 100 rank 9s for, let's say, 20 medallions, and that just wasn't really worth it for them, so they decided they're going to cut it here. Only rank 10 and higher can be traded in. And it also made sense in terms if you looked at the auction house prices before they even announced this change. Combat enchantments for healers. Which one should you be using? Well, the developer was a bit mixed about this, and yes, they're looking for ideas, so make sure to post on the forums if you come up with any interesting ideas for your healers. They don't really want to just put out a combat enchantment that just has a simple stat increase like everybody was using the Vorpal. Now for weapon illusions, they do intend for them to become more accessible elsewhere in the game. They won't be only obtainable through this exchange, thus making them limited, thus making the prices go up higher and higher of specific weapon illusions or armor illusions. So expect them to be dropping somewhere else in the future in the game, so don't expect their prices to go skyrocketing, and don't be, let's say, I don't know, holding on to it or even buying something that's so expensive. Then they asked basically pres wards. It costs so many preservation wards when you use a 1% moat, and that's just insane. Yes, the developers agree, especially with a 1% moat, you're using loads of preservation wards, and it can be just worth using like a cold moat instead. And they basically said you just shouldn't be using a 1% moat with preservation wards. You can waste a lot of preservation wards, and the system's built in so that you can, let's say, not use preservation wards, let's say for refinement or for gold, and that way you're only using preservation wards on, let's say, the glyphs, and then you can upgrade things, and then you would have the same rate as we had before. But ideally you want to be using like a 2% moat or at least a 5% moat, and then use preservation wards. They also went and confirmed, yes, the new trial, the master version, is releasing on PC today, and it has been released, and they shall also be introducing a baby version, or the normal version of the trial, so we can expect that at some point in the future, I guess within a few weeks maybe. Lots of people were asking for them to add the moats to the Reaper store. That would be, in my opinion, a great way, especially with all this enchantment changes. Much more people can actually get into the Reaper's challenge now because they can hit that 50,000 item level. And just the daily Reaper's challenges, it's a bit of fun because every day it's a new dungeon. You're just running that dungeon with a different set of basically challenges. I hope they would introduce more challenges, but they didn't say that that's going to happen. They said maybe. But yes, they will introduce more rewards into the Reaper store. They've said that at least. Then for our Heart of Fire, which we get from our Acquisitions Incorporated, unfortunately right now there's no way you can use it for anything except hanging it on your wall. And they are going to be thinking of what they're going to be able to exchange that for. Many people might have a account full of character slots. That's 50 characters, and each one could have a Heart of Fire. So they've got to come up with something that's going to appease those people who grinded out the Heart of Fire, because for quite a while you were able to exchange it for medallions on the previous server, and that was leading to people grinding it. Then they asked why basically are old enchantments still dropping? Is it intended? No, it's not intended that old enchantments should drop. They've all been removed from lockboxes, at least most of them. The older lockboxes, the outdated ones, some of them they haven't even fixed that they don't drop enchantments. Some still do, and yeah, they shouldn't. Then somebody asked why both armor and weapon enchantments were removed and just replaced by one combat. Well, basically they said to reduce the lag and to basically not have to bother fixing all the bugs that the old combat enchantments, the old armor and weapon enchantments had. Yeah, it seems a little bit lazy, and I can see what they mean with regards to lag. You could have like a fire burst and you could have a bile thorn and you're getting more ticks, but I don't think it had any impact. And in my opinion, they just wanted to simplify things down, reduce their mess of enchantments, like having all of those older ones that even, again, people weren't using. Anyway, it is what it is, and we can look into the future. They are going to introduce more and more combat enchantments here and there. We just have to wait. Now, the combat enchantments, somebody stated that they're multiplicative instead of additive, meaning they don't add to all your other damage sources, they directly multiply. And this is intended basically so that it makes sure it gives you the big bonus of damage rather than adding to your other damage bonuses and multiplying after. And that way you can actually obtain a decent bonus of damage for it. Then somebody asked about the shirt and pants. You can see you can have an armor reinforcement kit slotted in there, or jewels. You have kind of that slot that you would have in your armor or your neck and waist and rings, and future kits are most likely going to be slotted in there, but right now it's basically to accommodate people who have like Everfrost reinforcement kits in there. Then somebody asked what players is the change targeting. Well, it's not really targeting anybody in specific. Of course, it's targeting all of us with regards to being able to upgrade our characters further and spend more money on the game. That was definitely a thing, but otherwise they just say that it's to improve their overall game. Then somebody asked about the lack of movement speed. Are we going to get that anywhere else? Basically, temporarily, Azures were giving 5% movement speed each. You're getting a 25% movement speed buff, and then they took that away. And yeah, they basically threw movement speed on Azures as a temporary thing. This is horrible. They did this intentionally. They put movement speed on it as a dump stat, and then we're like, yeah, we're going to be coming out with these new changes. We're going to remove that. And they decided they were going to put movement speed on it so that people wouldn't lose out on some other thing. Anyway, it's a bit ridiculous and it's unfortunate. We now lose 25% movement speed as to what we had before, and they don't intend to compensate us anywhere else with increasing movement speed. Then somebody asked about the battle tempered combat enchantment, and it gives the shield, and it basically overrides the shield you'd get from the paladin or even the warlock. That's intended, and they're not supposed to stack on top of each other. They asked if it could become a yellow shield that it would stack on top of the blue shield, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And yes, they'll look at the adjustment of the magnitudes of that battle temper to actually give it a sufficient shield, because right now it's minuscule. Somebody asked about changing the insignias, and no change. I personally asked for maybe an account-wide system with insignias, but no reply. Somebody asked about about that 30k character boost that you could get from the Zen market, and it had enchantments in it. And was there anything to compensate players who had bought that? No, there wasn't. But if you buy the pack now, you will get new enchantments with it. I'm assuming on green, and there won't be a retroactive fix. However, if you did buy the pack close to the time that it got changed, you can reach out to community support and like basically appeal to them, and they might give you a set of the green new enchantments. Then somebody asked about the new enchantments in lockboxes and Tradebar store. Well, there's no plan just yet to add them to lockboxes, and nor either to the Tradebar store. Potentially at a later date, but I guess that's going to be a good while down the line, at least next module or so. Then somebody asked about combat enchants. Why do they give 5,000 item level? Doesn't that seem like a bit much? Because when they give 5,000 item level, you basically lose 5% on all of your statistics. Well, the devs said this compensates because 1% should equal 1000 item level. And because these new combat enchants give 10% damage resistance or 10% damage, then 10% should be equal to 10,000 item level. So they decided they'll be a bit nicer and reduce that down only to 5,000 item level. So yeah, we're a bit better off than what they were going to make it at 10,000. However, I still think you lose too many stats. Unfortunately, it's the way it is, and we can still work around it with adjusting our stats. I made a video on how you can still cap your stats with this new changes. It's not that hard, especially if you use an augment. Then somebody asked about refinement points and trading them between characters via the bank. Yes, that's intended to be a change they will implement. However, they need to change the refinement bonus event, because right now you can do it on each of your characters, the refinement bonus event, to gain the extra bonus, and that's a bit silly then if you have the event, and basically it depends on how many characters you have, depending on what rewards you can get then, and then have them all on one character per se. So they're going to have to change that event first, and then they'll look at making refinement exchangeable through the bank. Overloads, you may notice that once they go to 0 timer, you can basically keep using them. They don't break, and there was some visual that you could actually refill them on the previous server, and that apparently is all a bug, and they're going backward and not actually implementing any way to refill your overloads. Then with the bonus enchantments, if you have a look at it, you may notice that your bonus enchantment actually doesn't give you any item level. And yes, this is intended just like you have with your campaign boons. They give you all those small bonuses to said stats and don't give you any item level in return. So overall, that's everything, at least in my opinion, what was relevant in the stream. A link will be in the description to the stream itself if you want to watch it. It was about an hour long. I suggest watching on ×2 speed if you do, but hopefully this summarized it for you guys short enough. Make sure to go and vote on the forums of what you think, and I think the majority is going to be a separate stream for each class. So again, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going, and if I present this well, consider leaving the video a like. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.